You serious?
Hello, there are plenty of ways to kill time out there. Right now, you are killing some time with us. This is How to Kill an Hour, the podcast where we look for new ways to kill time and share them with you. Now, today we're taking a little journey away from the regular kind of content that we pop together in a show, because I'm joined by somebody who I've read quite a bit about. I've read a bit of their work recently, and I've listened to quite a few episodes of their podcast recently as well. I'd like to introduce to the show Payne, aka Documentally. How you doing, sir?
Really good.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. Let's just get straight to it, man. If I was to ask you what you did and you didn't know me, because obviously I'm a little bit aware of what you do, what would you say?
A little bit of everything. I exercise my curiosity and hopefully feed the family at the same time. So I talk, train and document. I come out of a background of being a photographer, became a conflict photographer, half the year, music photographer. And then I realised that everybody's a photographer and needed to diversify. So now I just love to document. I love to train people how to document, and all the stuff in between is personal projects.
Okay, and what sort of stuff have you been documenting recently?
So I've just got back from Chernobyl, where I was wine tasting in the exclusion zone. That is the first wine tasting I think that has happened there. A little bit before that, I was in Venice capturing stories of glassmakers, artisanal glassmakers, making some really incredible stuff in what some people might say is the birthplace of glass. So that was a lot of fun as well. Venice off season, I highly recommend it.
Really? What's it like? Because I always think about Venice being this buzzing, kind of zone for romantics.
It's still buzzing, but you can sit down in any restaurant. It seems to be a little bit cheaper off season. And I could play an experiment. I took I'm into my microphones, I'm into my audio. That's why I love your podcast so much, and that is dropping a microphone under the canal and actually capturing like an acoustic postcard of what Venice sounds like underwater. So I did a bit of that while I was there, and you're not going to get in trouble because everybody's just doing weird stuff anyway.
That sounds amazing. What kind of microphone did you drop under the water?
It's made by a guy called Jez Riley French, and I believe he makes some of the microphones for Chris Watson, the sound engineer for David Attenborough. And it's called a hydrophone. It's just basically a little sealed capsule on the end of a long cable, and it always makes a when it hits the water.
That's awesome. I can't wait to listen to that. Is that a recent episode of your podcast?
No, I mean, most of the time I'm doing like social snippets. I can't be bothered to go through as much work that you do a lot of the time. I've just done like a 45-minute piece today, edited it hours. Yeah. Quite a lot of the time I will capture a little soundbite like that, put a photo on it, throw it straight to Twitter.
Awesome. And it does, I like the fact that Twitter is a place where you can still kind of just do stuff like that, and it's always well appreciated because you've amassed quite a good following. And because I've only come into contact with your work quite recently, it's quite interesting to kind of discuss where that came from. But it kind of feels like it's an amalgamation of this content that you put out. You've got this newsletter. You told me you're in Venice and you're dropping microphones in water just to share that with the world.
It makes me nervous listening to someone say, "Yeah, I was stalking your content." You didn't say it like that, but it's really weird. I do forget, because for me, this is as much a personal diary. And if someone says, "What were you doing so-and-so?" I'll search Twitter or I'll search one of the online spaces where I know I shared a moment, because I got such a bad memory. I'm mostly throwing stuff out there for myself. So I do get a kick hearing that other people get a kick out of it.
Yeah, of course, man. I mean, like, the reason that we got to meet today was through a microphone, actually, the Mic Me. We've done an episode on it here at How to Kill an Hour, which you can find. It's literally 10 episodes before this. So just check it out. And, we got to sit down and have a conversation about the Mic Me and how we use that in our workflow in our recent E3 episodes. The Mic Me, just to give you a quick summary, is a portable microphone that you can take out and about with you, which has it's so flexible. It works with your camera phone and syncs the audio that it records, which is very high quality, with video that you can record on your phone, which is usually pretty high quality as well. And we used it in a very unique way, I believe. Before I met with you, I was like, well, let's have a look and see who I'm going to meet kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm kind of like, oh, let's have a little Google, you know. And I came across your newsletter, which I signed up for, which is, I said to you, it's I like your newsletter because it's long but interestingly long. It's like it's a good like when I saw it drop into the inbox, I was like, it's a good read. It's a good read. It's not like, oh, for fuck's sake, get to the end of it, mate. Like, plug whatever you plug in.
But don't you think it's a bit narcissistic in a way? I mean, I'm asking you because I never ask anybody this, but it is literally a list of what I've eaten, what I've read, what I've thought, and quite often I get to the bottom sometimes and I think, is anybody really interested in this? I mean, I'm downselling it now because, you know, at the moment there's around 1,000 subscribers and they come and go. But I do wonder whether or not I need to dial it down and just get to the. But I don't like
you
to
could
think
always
about
experiment. You could, if you really want to think about it, you could always try and do a little snackety snack size one. Like, hey, check this out. Bye. See how it goes, or not. But yeah, and also, what else did I check out? Listen to the podcast, and I'm the kind of guy that will scroll to episode 1. So I listened. This is just so you can get an idea of how Christian, the sort of his style, and this is a really good example. You did a documentary, I'd say, a very short one, about pens. Please tell the listener about that. Because that was a great bit of content. I was just like, I did not expect to pick up an episode about that. I
don't even remember this. Was I talking to another guy called Christian? Because he's one of the penophiles. I don't think that's what they're called. But don't Google that. He's one of there's is it stealiophile? There is a word for people.
I think it's stealiophile. I think that's what it is. Something like that.
Totally into his writing influence, Christian Hambley. And every time I see him, he rolls out. He's like an assassin. He'll roll out this little cloth bag, and then they'll all arrange their like individual weapons. Word-making weapons. And I mean, I'm geeky about all kinds of stuff, but when all of our technology comes and goes because we're always updating our screen, there is something beautiful. And I haven't invested like he has. I bought a fountain pen last week for £1 just to see if it was worth £1. And I think it was, apart from like calves as it writes. But his stuff, he'll say, oh, this was like £68 and it's made from like the nostril hair of not a rhino, because obviously that would be wrong, but they're made of beautiful phoenix. That's better. They're made of beautiful things. People care about this. They're often from some artisanal small company, and yeah, I like that. And it can tell stories.
Yes, it can indeed. Yeah, quite literally. All right, seeing as I like that episode, is there another episode that you think I should listen to?
I'm going to recommend Boring Talks from the BBC for you, which is not one of my podcasts, but I didn't realise. I mean, I get called a jack of all trades or a Renaissance man, whatever. I prefer the latter because it sounds smart. Because I'm always dipping into all the minutiae or the microcosm. When everybody tries to look at the big picture, I think that we can get just as much from the smaller stuff. So everything is different. I could never recommend anything. Some of the stuff that I really care about, I mean, I've just posted a conversation with a guy I desperately wanted to talk to, but when I Googled him, he was dead. And I thought, I've really missed my option here. I really missed my opportunity here. My year of being 40 years old, I said I'm going to write to a mentor and tell them how much they mean to me. And he wrote this book called The Dice Man, and it blew my mind. And I rolled the dice for 6+ years, travelled the world, and it made me who I am in a way. And yet I'd missed my window. Then I see an article and he's not dead. He'd faked his death. Yes! So I banged him an email, and we ended up hooking up both in Paris and over here just a couple of days ago. And we just sat on a bench in the noisiest part of London, which was the only chance I got. So capturing that on my phone, I've just edited it, just uploaded it. I really care about that. It reminds me of all the stuff I was recording with my grandmother, who was also in her 80s. And reminds me about why I started capturing stories in the first place, because if you don't start archiving some of this wisdom, some of these stories, some of these people's heartfelt tales of why and who they are, you will never get the chance and they'll be gone.
Yeah, I agree with you fully. And there are gems upon gems upon gems, and you have conversations with people that have lived. You know, I think everybody likes to think that, I think I know quite a bit for my age. But, when you talk to somebody who's been around that a little bit longer than you, or a few people, you realise the things that you will never know, and things that that you want to explore and do more of. You said you rolled the dice for 6 years.
On and off. I mean, I've got bad FOMO, so when it comes to menus and stuff like that, I'll roll the dice to choose between dishes because I can't choose. There's too much. I'm so over. It's bad because I don't know if that's greed because I want everything. I think it's more I'm happy to eat anything, so I'll roll the dice to help me decide. Because guarantee whatever you order, I'll be like, oh, that looks way better than mine.
But like, you can have a bit. Do you have your own dice that you roll around with, or do you have a dice app?
So last week in Paris, I'd never met Luke Reinhardt face to face, but we have been emailing for over a year.
Yeah.
And I said to him, when the Q&A microphone came round, I was like, me. Put my hand up and I said, Mr. Luke Reinhardt, my question is, will you roll the dice for me now? And I held up 2 pouches. And I said, okay, evens, you can have this one. Odds, you can have this one. And in front of the auditorium, he rolled the dice. Another pair of dice that I gave him, which he then pocketed and stole, but I'm cool with that.
Geezer.
And when he opened up the pouch that he got, he emptied this die onto his hand, and it was a 1,500-year-old Byzantine dice made from woolly mammoth tusk. And everybody just went, awesome. And I was like, that was the one I kind of wanted. Because in the other pouch, it's what I have in my pocket right now, and I'll just unravel this pouch. So in here, the booby prize is still awesome. These are the ones I'm carrying now, okay. And they are a set of dice from George III's time. So these are 150 years old, and they're made of bone, rolling the bones because they were bone. And there's a little red mark on one of them which shows that the tax has been paid, the gambling tax has been paid on these 150 plus year old dice.
Wow, and there's 3 of these, right?
Yeah, there's a mini one as well, which if I'm traveling light, I'll just carry the one and just go odds and evens. But back in the day, it would be like seriously, number 1, I will quit university and buy a camper van. Number 2, I will stay in university and complete my physics degree. Number 3, I will go and get very drunk tonight in the student bar. Number 4, and on that occasion, number 1 came up and I quit university, got a camper van, and that's when I started traveling. And it was all thanks to the book, The Dice Man.
Look at where you are now. These are amazing, by the way. I just want to, so the larger two, oh, I can see the little red mark on it as well. It's like some writing, isn't it? A little inscription. I'd say they're the size, a little bit bigger than a Skittle, a bit smaller than an M&M, and the smaller one is definitely the same size as a Skittle, but imagine it was square. That's great. And how often are you rolling the dice now then?
Oh, it's just if I'm feeling indecisive. I actually rolled the dice many years ago, maybe 20 years ago, and one of the options that came up that I actually landed on was don't roll the dice for 15 years. And I'm not recommending you adopt chance as a philosophy because it can really hurt people. I walked out on a long-term girlfriend and thankfully met her years later. She's doing way better than she would have done if she'd stayed with me. And yet I owe so many of my adventures to just giving it up for the moment. So now it's literally just a bit of fun. Because I use them in my workshops, I keep them on me all the time where, I'll say, okay, choose a destination online for where you want to share a story to. Choose a type of content that you want to create. Then we roll the dice and it gets people out of their workflows. It gets people thinking about how to do a picture story into Facebook Live or something like that.
Let's talk about your workshops, because as well as adopting these methods, you take them and you teach them to a range of different people, don't you? So how did you get into that, and what kind of stuff can we get from your classes?
When I came out of Iraq and I'd made a little photo slideshow for YouTube, my first workshops came about by photographers saying, how can we do this witchcraft? How can we make our pictures move like this? And that opened my eyes and made me think, hang on, I don't need to be editorialized on projects with refugees anymore. I can just do a workshop and then use part of the money to go and do the project. So I built on that. I now train live streaming. I work with the BBC. I do workshops for them. I've just been doing some sound-based appreciation workshops where getting people to think more about the benefits of using and utilizing and capturing great sound. I like the more play stuff, the stuff that involves a lot of play and experimentation, creating sandboxes. So sometimes I'll just announce a What 3 Words address. I don't know if you've heard of What 3 Words. It's an app. The whole world has been mapped by words. So where we're sat right now is a 3-word address. Be interesting to see what it's called. And so I'll give that address out and I'll arrange to meet people, and we'll do outdoor like tech base camps where you come with your narrative issue and we flesh it out and come up with some strategy. Or I'll just do short form video for people that don't want to hire shoulder mounted camera professionals and want to bring their video in-house. So it's whatever I'm interested in, really.
I kind of feel like you may have answered this question a number of times throughout the podcast, but how do you like to kill time? I ask people this a lot, and it's kind of separating what they do at work from their play when I ask them that. But I feel like a lot of what your passion embodies is you take that to work with you, if you want to use the word work, whatever. What do you do when you like to kill time, though?
I listen and I watch. And I think that in a world where, especially as content creators, we're always feeling a little bit edgy if we're not sharing something. My really passionate killing time moments are just sitting and listening to someone smarter, better, quicker, faster than me, or just watching people in action, whether it be people watching in the street or whether it be a professional explaining their passions on a video online. So for me, it's about absorbing and, I guess, feeding my curiosity. There's so many answers that a part of me would like answered, and I don't think they ever will. But the journey to get to somewhere is just so much fun.
I suppose that's like the blessing and the curse of unlimited information at our fingertips, right? And also being beings that have insatiable curiosity. Hence
why I've got one of the most expensive dumb phones on the market in my bag, because I do know when to turn all this off. You have to now. If anybody's like complaining about the fact we've got access to pretty much unlimited data, you just got to remember that it's filter failure. There's no such thing as too much data, I don't think. It's about knowing when to turn it off. And so I do a bit of bushcraft. I bought a narrowboat recently, found some Bitcoin lying around on a laptop.
Oh, yes.
And I bought it to do workshops on, and oh my, we're right next to a gorgeous canal right here. And I was just stood there jealously looking at this. It's an alternate reality. It's a slither of the universe that if you've never been on a boat floating at walking pace through other people's realities, you're really missing something super simple and easy to attain if you borrow someone's boat.
I highly recommend it. One of the sayings I love from the narrowboat world is slower is better. The slower the better, or the slower the better. And I was like, I never really got what that meant until, like you said, you're rolling at sometimes slow. If you're in London, 100% slower than walking pace. Like you said, through. Because the canals are very interesting. They cut right through city.
Have you been on?
Yeah. And I found I really enjoyed locks. Sometimes I can understand why people don't, because it's, there are these giant gates that basically you use as stairs to get your boat up hills and downhill. Uphill and downhill. First, I was amazed at how they worked, which is, the pressure of the water in them keeps the doors closed. And by opening little flaps in the doors, basically you can let water out, and basically you can climb up a hill with your boat or go down with a narrowboat. I found that really fun. I don't know why. I was consistently amazed. I was like, I'll do it this time.
I'm amazed as well, because it's such old technology.
Yeah.
Some of these locks are 300 years old and they're still there. Yeah, they get maintained. That's why it costs a fortune to actually have a boat on a canal, and yet they are there. And I brought my boat down from the north of England because they're much cheaper up there, and you come across some of them and they might have names like Big Lock, and it's like approaching the gates of Mordor. This thing looming, and I'm cracking through the ice. I'm the only person on the canal because no one's insane to be out in the winter, because most of these locks are being repaired and you can't go anywhere anyway. And you're just thinking, this this is absolutely amazing. Massive smile on my face, even though I couldn't feel my fingers and the driving rain was taking my skin off. Just massive grin. Yeah.
Are you boating much now, or will you be doing some boating soon?
I was on a couple of days ago. I've got a big session planned for the summer where just going away and just switching stuff off and just floating along. It's a great way to reset the soul.
Definitely. And one thing that you find a lot of people use when they have narrowboats are bicycles. And you're a big bike fan. Big thank you to your newsletter for that as well. Tell us about what makes your bike special and about this project, because it's very interesting, because it's like an ongoing thing, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I've had my folding bike. Now, if you are listening to this in London, it's almost derogatory for some. Oh, you're one of those Brompton riders. Weirdly, because I live in the villages of Cambridgeshire. If I take my bike to the north of England, people are like, "Oh, what happened?" They think I'm carrying some bike wreck, and then I magically show them how it unfolds, and they're like, "What?" I've had so many bikes robbed that I can't trust locking them up anymore. You know how to unlock a D-lock with a warm biro. If you go on YouTube, I'm not recommending you do that, but no, having also fun in lock sport and having learnt to pick locks at a very early age, they're not safe, they're not secure. So I just wanted a bike that I could sling under the table of a pub, that I could take into all buildings. It's right next to me here, and that particular folding bike fit the bill. Not cheap, but I tell you what, I've got my money's worth. And I just want to make it as light as possible, because more and more I'm finding myself in tube stations or up and down train stations. And I'm actually thinking of doing a little hitchhiking project where it will be lifted in and out of a car. And then I could, when need be, once the car's dropped me off, just cycle into some random village and capture stories that way. So that's why I love it so much.
Yeah, it's a great last mile device. I think that's the kind of thing that is really appealing to people in cities as they grow. So increasingly, the house prices in central London are, they're astronomical. So a lot of people are moving out of London and commuting in, but all of the houses that are next to the train station are also astronomically priced. So they need to find a way to get from their house to the station, and these kind of modes of transport are very interesting. What's the latest kind of thing? Because I've noticed you focus on knocking weight off your Brompton. So what is the regular weight of a bicycle like that?
Well, I started my bike because of the seat and the grips was around 12 kilos. So it is easy to get a Brompton down to 10. And I've got the titanium model. So I went online and I checked out some of a word of warning. There's some really amazing stuff out there for sale. But the moment it arrives, you're like, is this going to be as good as what Brompton have made? And I'm finding out very quickly that quite a lot of the time, the reason why it's a little bit heavier is because it needs to be built like it's going to survive the punishment of, for example, the Parisian streets, which absolutely knackered my carbon fibre seat post, which I'm waiting to hear from them, whether or not they give me a refund in China. But yeah, I really like getting stuff. I mean, they've built an entire titanium frame, totally ripped off the Brompton in China. I'm not going to risk buying that, but there's loads of little bits, seat posts, my handlebars I'm absolutely loving. And the lighter it gets, you really do notice, and it becomes, I don't know, just an extension of the body that you can unfold, leap on, and in the case of trying to find you, cycle 7 miles with very little effort.
7 miles?
I took the zigzaggy way. I've got a sat-nav which just gives me a rough direction. Right. It wasn't calibrated properly. God. It's just an arrow on my handlebars so that you can explore and find stuff rather than something going, go left, go right, go left, go right. I don't want It's called Beeline.
Beeline, that's it. Yeah, we've actually reviewed that on the show as well. Yeah, that's it. The Beeline, a little circle device, comes in a little plastic holder. It's pretty good, isn't it?
It is if you wave your bike around your head to calibrate it before you get on.
That is necessary.
Otherwise, you start seeing some really burning shopping trolley areas of London I'd never seen before.
Right, so we've spoken about the bike. We spoke about some headphones that were amazing, and it's this kind of audio that you really want to explore, and we've experimented with slightly.
Yeah, they're binaural headphones, and they're made by Sennheiser, and they're called the Ambio Smart Headset. And in combination with microphones like the Mic Me, it's really nice to have that spatial surround sound and then that punchy conversation happening. And there's something about recording audio with the microphones placed inside your ears, and unless you've never tried this, it's hard to explain what it's like. But you are capturing not only the sounds, but the sounds in relation to the acoustic shadow being created by your head. And what that means to the brain is, if a sound is happening in this room right now, like to you, it's just a clicking of the fingers. But because that sound is traveling at different times to your ears, these headphones capture that time difference. And these headphones then place that space in your auditory vision, if that's a term. And it's quite amazing. So you could walk around someone whispering sweet somethings to them, and when you listen back to that audio, you will be freaked out in a VR sense. That person is whispering right into my ear right now.
Awesome. I think there's great bits of content to be made with those, and that kind of sound I definitely think would help to elevate the podcast platform, or should we say the audio platform, if there was more content out there that was designed specifically for that. And you also mentioned that you're a real big fan of audio, and there are a lot of situations where people don't realize how important audio is.
For me, it's been a necessity. Quite a lot of times, you'll walk into a situation and it'll be like no video, and it might be no video because they haven't done their hair. And I don't walk away without a story. I'll say, can we capture a conversation? I won't say interview, sounds too serious. Can we capture a conversation? Phone out, little mic shield on the phone at very least, or a stereo microphone, or the mic me, or whatever lav mic I've got with me. And there's times when you just don't have the bandwidth to do anything else. And in Syria, for example, I recorded way more audio because I could very quickly upload it. And in today's day and age where, I don't know, if you're looking at your phone for 2 hours of the day, that's 1 month of your year that you are looking at your phone. Just give me a rough estimation of what percentage of that is really useful, not entertaining, let's say educational time.
It's going to be about 10% max. Probably like 7%, I would say, is knowledge that you require at either a primary or secondary level.
So how much of a gift is it when you, like you are doing right now, you're saying, hey, do what you want to do. Go for a walk, do some exercise, go and lie in a wood. I'm just going to speak to you whilst you're doing whatever you're doing.
It's great. I think it's a gift. That's why we do it.
It's totally
You're welcome.
It totally is. And there's people thanking you right now because they're probably driving a car or doing something else and absorbing your engaging content. So that's another big win for me. But there's also this inviting people into your head. Like, I subscribe to so many podcasts, and the emotional narrative is carried for me so much easier in audio. I get more emotional because I am building that story in my head. Therefore, you can't tell me a more personal story because I'm using my imagery most of the time. And that for me is the power of not only the content itself, but the power of the mind to really take that to heart. And I know there's a cliche when they say the theatre of the mind, but it's very cerebral content.
Yeah, 100%. It's like we literally just had a conversation about this. If I tell you can do this when you're listening now, actually, whatever you're doing. Imagine a cup of coffee on a table. Now, that cup of coffee to some is going to be a double espresso. To others, it's going to be a latte. To another person, it might be a tea instead because they don't like coffee. But, that's the kind the fact that your mind partakes in the content that's being distributed to it, or it's taking in and kind of melds it together. It creates a level of reality that you can't get from other formats.
And yet we're still being bombarded by visuals because, let's face it, that's it's a space which is much easier for people to sell stuff to you. And unfortunately, we've gone down the path where we could have had an open web, but we've gone down, one corporate platform after another, and they've got to be paid for. So that's why upright video is ruling the roost, because it's so much easier to have infinite scrolling with adverts dropping up every second. And I love how smart podcasters are getting about advertising, where, oh my God, did I have a good night's sleep last night? No, I really did, because I was on my insert mattress brand here, and they can make they don't take themselves seriously. And a great person at this is Benjamin Walker's theory of everything. He's like, look, I'll be honest, I've not used this product, but they are paying for this podcast, so you better go out and buy it. And I kind of love that.
Yeah, it is. I think the average podcast listener is very switched on, so you can't get them by them like that. So I just like to say this podcast is
and that's an interesting thing, because when you were talking about Mike Me at the beginning of this, I really wanted to dip in and say, you are not being paid to talk about that product, and yet it sounds like you are genuinely passionate about it, but in the way that a podcaster would have if they were selling it. And I just wanted to add extra value to your passion by going, by the way, I'm not paying you, they're not paying you, we're just genuinely interested.
I think that's something that we're always going to try and maintain here at How to Kill an Hour. Is there we do run ads, obviously, at the start, middle and end of the podcast. You'll hear them. We do branded content. We always explain when we're doing it. We don't try and get it by you. But we only really like to work with brands that we can get behind. So the sell isn't fake. So if we like it, we'll talk about it and promote it. And if we don't like it, there's been scenarios where we've been approached by people and we've said, you know what, thank you, but the product isn't the right fit for us. And it's not easy to turn away money, because sometimes when you turn away money, you think, oh shit, did I make the wrong decision? Did I just talk myself out of some cash? That could have been another holiday, or, you know what I mean? Or something like that. But, you know, I think it's important for people, if you're going to be in this kind of environment where we will talk about a lot of tech and brands and products, that we remain strong enough to be able to say when something's good, when something is bad, when something's okay because it's so cheap, or for that much money, rip off. Yeah. And I think I really want to maintain that with the show. I mean, unless somebody has £10 million,
you'll sell anything.
I'll sell my soul.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's not enough just to make money anymore. You've got to kind of make money and do good at the same time. So quite often I will talk about small startups that are seriously trying to make the world a better place, rather than just look for the exit. Yeah. So interesting times we're living in, definitely.
Also, right, before you go, because I've nicked a bit of time with you with this podcast here. You are one of the most enthusiastic app users I have met for a long time. In the space of about 10 minutes, you recommended about 7 fabulous apps that I downloaded as you mentioned them, and they're all great. How do you find so much appage? Are you out? I feel like you're out there, browsing the app store sometimes, just going, right, where's a fabulous app for recording or editing audio? Where's this fabulous app for planning my life? How do you do it?
I always think of the workflow first. What do I need to do? If I can't do it, whinge about it. Maybe someone will make something. Yeah. If I can't find the app, whinge about it. Someone probably has it and can let me know what that is. The problem is nowadays the choice. I always dip into the internet, to Twitter. If you want any app recommendation around story making, you can be pretty sure that the master of app procurement, Mark Settle, who works for the BBC, will probably have downloaded at one point and will tell you, no, it's pants, or no, this is shit hot, you've got to check this out. In fact, he doesn't swear much, so he'll probably just say this is rather very good. and so I will dip into the mobile journalism community, which you can find on the hashtag Mojo. Somebody somewhere would have tried something, because if you want an app to make GIFs, oh my god, or GIFs as they're truly called, there's hundreds out there, so you really do need to narrow down your search. So it's always, what's the point in having a Twitter network if you're not leaning on their intelligence?
Yeah. How do you use Twitter? Do you you've just mentioned that you ask for advice for stuff like that. Do you also like to browse your timeline and just see what's going on?
I have many lists. I started restricting how many people I was following, and I realized that's like damming a river. I do like to dip into the torrent, and I'll randomly scroll the phone fast, and then I'll wait until bling, that's someone I haven't spoke to for a while, and I'll engage with that person to reignite that connection, because I might not have seen them since New York 2008, but hey, how's it going? And because I love it when people do that with me. I'll also throw stuff out there randomly because it entertains, it educates, or it inspires me. So no real rules, but lists play a big part. I have a list. So if I follow 3,500 100,000 people, for example, you cannot monitor all of that, what's going on. I will put a selection of people I'm working with, people I learn from, family and friends, into a private list. And that'll be the thing that I open up immediately on my desktop, for example, so I don't miss some of that talk there.
That's nice. Good way of kind of filtering through the noise as well, isn't it? Because there are certain periods of time where there's a lot going on Twitter.
I added you to a list yesterday.
You did indeed. Was it podcasting?
It was podcasters, just so that it also helps, like, if I just want to see what's going on in the podcasting world or what content is coming out in audio, just quickly open that list.
Yeah, I've got a couple of lists, but then I'm a bit like, I'll open Twitter, have a little browse, and I mean a little browse, not like hours, and then I'll leave it. Like I'm not as. I mean, there's certain times when I go, oh, that hashtag, let's go and see what's cracking, because you get some absolute gold on Twitter. But I think if I wanted to have a nice browse, I might start using lists more in the future.
You're on Facebook, yeah?
Oh yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I'm not, you see. So for me, that's my sowing seeds of serendipity, or whatever you want to call it, has always been on Twitter. And I don't think I'd be, devastated should Twitter end up pulling the plug or something happen to it, because I believe I've built a network there which will migrate to the next big place, whether it's Mastodon or wherever. Cool. So, ever since that day, February the 13th, 2008, when I was driving along in like a Land Rover I'd just converted to be biodiesel, and I hit a telegraph pole and rolled it. And then as I stepped out, instead of calling my client and saying, I'm going to be late to take those photos, I captured a little video on my Nokia N95 and shared it to the internet, and it went viral. I stopped calling myself a photographer, and for me, it was all about the networks. You cannot underestimate how powerful it is if you throw something out there and it sticks. Just the other day, I'm really trying to find a lightweight 2-speed Brompton bicycle. Anybody got any ideas? Because there was nothing on eBay. The CEO of Brompton responds, hey, you can borrow mine. And I'm like, I love the internet. Because there's much more important stuff than that happens. So if you are in these spaces, offer as much value as you can. Connect with kindness, because it will come back tenfold.
Okay. Are you on the other social medias as well? Like Insta? I know Insta's practically Facebook.
It is Facebook. Yeah. That's the only kind of corner of Facebook. And it's not that I'm totally anti-Facebook. It's just that not doing Facebook frees up 8 hours of my day where I don't have to pay too much attention to ex-girlfriends and people I didn't want to talk to at school. Because unfortunately, when I built my Facebook network, it was just, oh, look, we're all connected because Facebook knows weird stuff about us. And I didn't build it like I have Twitter. So I totally get it. And for you, being a content creator across multiple platforms, you have to have that kind of place. But for me, Facebook is for all the people you kind of already know. And other micro-blogging type platforms are for all the people you want to know.
Yeah, Twitter is probably my favorite place for engagement. Whether it's engaging on a positive note or watching other people battle it out through a series of tweets, it's always great. But please, before we wrap today's show up, can you just share with the listener how they can find more of what you do? Because, you have a lot of content that you pop out there.
I do. Be kind, be gentle. It's Documentally with 2 L's pretty much everywhere. My newsletter's on documentally.com/newsletter. It's also on ourmaninside.com, but that doesn't work for me. I think I need to refresh my cache.
What was that? Yeah, what was that?
Our Man Inside was born a long time ago when I had a friend who worked inside Parliament as a journalist, and he was leaking fascinating, interesting truths behind how the machine works. And so I created that as an anonymous, he says in air comments, because nothing's anonymous online, as an anonymous blog. And I kept it because I quite like Our Man Inside.
Yeah, it's got a nice ring to it. The newsletter's fun. I do recommend you go and check out the podcast as well. I think just the fact that you don't know what's coming up in the next episode is such a pleasure. And I look forward to catching up with you again, man. We put together a little idea, and when we get that off the ground, that will make some content that hopefully you really appreciate listening to. And we will probably appreciate listening back to as well, because I think at the time of recording it, we're going to be, we don't really know how we're going to be feeling, do we? But thank you very much for joining us on How to Kill an Hour. We will put all of the links to everything that we spoke about with regards to Documentally in the show description, so please check that. And also check out howtokillanhour.com. It's our website where we put everything we do. In the meantime, look after yourself, and I'll speak to you soon.